welcome to another episode of Tiny Nest. I'm Kiva.
And I'm Jake. This series is following our tiny house project from the early stages through to completion and beyond.
This episode is about sheathing. We'd also like to give a thanks to my dad for helping us out. We've begun the process of sheathing. A couple things that we did to make the process a bit easier for us is we checked on the model where the bottom of this piece would land, and we snapped a chalk line along all the studs, and then we just put in a few of these nails so that we were just able to sort of shimmy up the piece and rest it on the nails. Then we put in a couple screws. We did that with a couple of the pieces just to make sure that everything fit like we thought that it was going to. And we also snapped some chalk lines along the studs so that when we nailed it on, we'd know where we're nailing. Then what we did is we took the piece off of the wall and then laid down some glue. And then once the glue was up, we put the piece back up on the wall, and Jake went around and nailed it in with ring shank nails.
The nailing pattern that we've been going with is every 6 inches around the perimeter and about every 8 inches in the field. To get the piece of sheathing that goes over the fender, I basically just took a scrap piece of sheathing, held it up tight against the fender, held it in place with clamps, and then cut a tiny little piece of pencil, and just when with the sheathing held in place, I reached in and ran the pencil along the perimeter of the fender to scribe like the silhouette of the fender on the piece. And this is what I cut out of that scrap piece. Then I just measured from our last piece of sheathing to where the fender started, held my little template up against a full sheet, which was this one, where it started there, traced it out, cut it out a little bit generously with the jigsaw so there'd be a little wiggle room, and it worked pretty good. And so you can see how the piece of sheathing comes down in front of that flashing, so there's no way for water to get under and then travel up over the flashing and get inside the house. We also found a couple tiny imperfections in the seal around the fender flashing, so we just added another bead of caulking for good measure all the way along the edge of it there. Normally you'd sheathe the whole surface with as many full sheets as you can and then cut out all the openings afterwards. And that's what we were planning on doing. But because there's just a little bit more than 2 full sheets leaving this strip, we just realized for this spot, we're just gonna cut a piece because this bottom plate's gonna get cut out for the door opening. We're just gonna cut a piece that fits right here all the way up to this, rather than having some small strip piece and then another part of a sheet there. And there's a couple other spots where we can do that too, where it crosses a window opening and whatnot. As you can see, it's raining. Before we even started the build, we bought an enormous tarp for exactly this kind of occasion, and it seems to be working pretty good. So much so that we fit the scaffold under here and we're continuing to sheathe even though it's raining. So this is how you sheathe a tiny house in the rain.
Because you can't see where the windows are from the outside once it's all sheathed, we're just going through and drilling holes in the 4 corners of each window so that it's easier to cut out.
And then using the holes as a guide from the outside, I'm just using a straight edge to mark the square that I'll then cut out with the skill saw. there's still a little bit of overlap, so I'm just gonna take the saw and just trim off until it's nice and flush on all the edges. We're now gonna remove all the bracing that we have left in the house.
You're on.
We're now gonna remove all the bracing. Now,